My beloved child, I need you to completely silence the world around you right now. Take a very slow, deep, and intentional breath, and listen incredibly closely to the words that are about to pour into your spirit. This specific moment in time is absolutely not ordinary. You have not stumbled upon this message by accident, and it is not a random coincidence of the universe. Right now, at this exact millisecond, Archangel Michael is actively standing incredibly near to you. He is standing with a calm, overwhelmingly peaceful, yet profoundly urgent presence, and the divine, blinding light radiating around his magnificent form is infinitely brighter and more intense than usual. He leans forward, looking directly into the deepest chambers of your soul, and he speaks with a voice that does not come from the earth, but from the highest courts of heaven. He says, God says, this is about you. His voice is incredibly gentle, absolutely devoid of any harsh judgment, but it is also incredibly firm, carrying a weight in the divine authority that physically shakes the spiritual air completely around your body. And what heaven is about to reveal to you next is absolutely not meant to embarrass you. It is entirely not meant to shame you, it is not meant to harshly criticize your choices, and it is certainly not meant to make you feel insecure. It is divinely, meticulously designed to profoundly awaken you. Archangel Michael says that the Almighty God has been watching you very closely lately, looking at you with the incredibly tender, fiercely protective eyes of a loving parent who only desperately wants to see their beautiful child step fully, boldly, and unapologetically into the magnificent destiny perfectly prepared for them. And in this incredibly specific, highly transitional season of your life, God is actively, gently guiding you to adjust something seemingly small on the absolute outside, simply so that something unprecedented, massive, and breathtakingly magnificent can fully open up on the inside. God says to your spirit today, you urgently need to intentionally work on the way you dress and externally present yourself to the world. I need you to hear this with an open heart. I am absolutely not saying this because your current appearance makes you somehow unworthy of my love. I am not saying this because you are doing something inherently wrong, and I am not saying this because you are bad or flawed. I am telling you this directly because, my beautiful child, you are currently entirely, tragically unaware of the massive, blinding, and powerful light that you actually carry inside of your spirit. You are entirely too unaware of the profound, lingering, and life-altering impression your mere physical presence leaves on the people around you. You are completely unaware of exactly how deeply, fundamentally, and powerfully your spiritual aura affects the physical world every single time you simply walk into a room. Archangel Michael speaks to you now with deep, protective compassion. He says, sometimes you intentionally, desperately try to hide yourself when God actively, urgently wants you to shine blindingly bright. Sometimes you deliberately, subconsciously dull your own massive power, shrinking your posture and lowering your eyes, when God desperately needs you to stand incredibly tall, fierce, and unshakable. Sometimes you dress specifically as if you are desperately trying not to be seen by anyone, actively attempting to blend your vibrant, royal energy into the dark, quiet corners of the room, completely forgetting that your massive, God-given destiny absolutely refuses to stay hidden in those shadows. God sees the mornings when you dress incredibly quickly, entirely without intention, throwing on whatever is easiest simply because you are exhausted, completely without honoring the beautiful, sacred, and capable vessel that God personally knitted together and gave to you. I need you to deeply understand that this profound, prophetic message is absolutely not just about fabric, fashion, or worldly clothes. It is profoundly, deeply about your core identity, It is about the incredibly powerful, anointed, and chosen spirit currently living within you. It is about you finally, fully understanding the massive, unprecedented spiritual level that God is actively, currently raising you into. God says you truly do not even realize the magnificent, powerful, and breathtaking force of nature you are actively becoming right now. You are looking at yourself in the mirror through the heavily distorted, cracked lenses of your past traumas, your past exhaustion, and your past rejections, but heaven is looking at you through the flawless, brilliant lens of your ultimate, victorious destiny. Archangel Michael says, the specific way you dress and present yourself on a daily basis right now sometimes entirely fails to match the massive, heavy spiritual ranking and high authority that you actually carry in the unseen realm. And God wants to make this perfectly, undeniably clear. This is absolutely not because you lack physical or spiritual beauty. God says you are already breathtakingly, undeniably beautiful, intricately and flawlessly designed by the Creator of the stars. It is absolutely not because you lack potential, because your destiny is literally overflowing with a massive, untapped reservoir of world-changing potential. It is entirely because you consistently, tragically underestimate yourself. You heavily underestimate your own inherent, divine value. You deeply underestimate the commanding power of your own physical presence. You entirely underestimate exactly how chosen, how favored, and how fiercely protected you truly are by the armies of heaven. God says, with a voice full of overwhelming, unconditional love, you dress sometimes exactly like someone who is barely surviving the storm, not like someone who is actively, victoriously rising above the clouds. You present yourself sometimes like a wounded soldier who is desperately hiding from the enemy, not like a triumphant conqueror whom I am actively preparing to dramatically, publicly elevate. You dress sometimes in a chaotic, exhausted hurry, completely failing to recognize the absolute, undeniable truth that I have already permanently placed a heavy, golden, royal identity directly onto your tired shoulders. You have been through so many agonizing, brutal battles in your life. Some of those battles were incredibly loud, public, and chaotic, where people clearly saw your intense struggle. But so many more of those brutal battles were fought entirely in silence, behind locked doors, where absolutely no one else in the world ever truly knew the crushing, suffocating weight you bravely carried all by yourself. You valiantly fought through endless, freezing nights of absolute loneliness. You navigated through incredibly heavy, dark seasons of profound confusion. You survived agonizing phases of deep, bitter disappointment, and you pushed through terrifying moments where you were literally one shallow breath away from completely giving up and throwing in the towel. You carried your deep, painful emotional scars with an unmatched, breathtaking grace. You stubbornly, relentlessly kept going, taking one agonizing step after another, when absolutely anyone else would have permanently stopped and surrendered. And through all of this intense fire, through all of this brutal spiritual pressure, your beautiful spirit grew exponentially. Your empathetic heart strengthened remarkably. Your resilient soul sharpened into a brilliant, unbreakable diamond. But God says, your physical appearance and your external self-presentation have absolutely not yet caught up with your massive, undeniable internal growth. You are still subconsciously dressing exactly like someone who is actively fighting bloody, exhausting battles, when in spiritual reality, you are actively, currently entering a breathtaking, peaceful season of overflowing, unprecedented blessings. You are still dressing exactly like someone who is completely stuck in a chaotic transition, when heaven says you are actively stepping into your ultimate, permanent transformation. You are still outwardly presenting yourself like someone who is just barely surviving the day, when heaven has already officially ordained you to absolutely, completely thrive. Archangel Michael says, the world has absolutely not yet seen the true, ultimate, and magnificent version of you that God has been meticulously, silently, and flawlessly shaping in the quiet background of your life. The world has only seen the caterpillar, but heaven has already fully designed the butterfly. And as that breathtaking, incredibly powerful version of you actively prepares to step forward out of the dark shadows and into the blinding light of day, your entire external presentation must inevitably, beautifully evolve along with it. Not for the shallow approval of society, not for the fleeting validation of broken people, and absolutely not to impress those who once doubted you, but simply because your magnificent spirit is actively, currently stepping into a significantly higher level of existence, a profoundly higher frequency of divine authority, and an entirely new, elevated chapter of your God-given destiny. God says, you simply do not even begin to realize exactly who you are rapidly becoming right now. The Almighty is actively, meticulously preparing you for entirely new rooms where your mere physical presence matters immensely. God is actively preparing you for massive, unprecedented opportunities where first impressions are not just shallow earthly judgments, but where they actually carry massive, profound divine weight. God is actively preparing you for breathtaking new connections, overwhelming blessings, sudden breakthroughs, and perfect divine alignments where the specific way you present yourself externally absolutely must reflect the undeniable power, the deep maturity, and the monumental purpose He is currently releasing internally. God says, my beautiful child, you are currently stepping across a massive golden threshold into a highly sacred season where you absolutely cannot afford to treat yourself casually anymore. Archangel Michael explicitly says, the way you dress and present yourself sometimes entirely does not match the heavy, magnificent spiritual ranking you carry. It is absolutely not because you lack physical beauty or potential, but entirely because you severely underestimate your own value. You underestimate your overwhelming presence. You dress sometimes in a rush, completely without honoring the sacred vessel God gave you, completely forgetting that heaven has placed a heavy, royal mantle directly upon your shoulders. God says, I cannot possibly take you into entirely new, elevated rooms while you are still desperately clinging to an old, exhausted identity. Right now, at this exact moment, legions of warrior angels are actively, fiercely watching over you with incredibly deep compassion, because God is meticulously preparing you for something you do not yet physically see. Something infinitely bigger, completely unexpected, something you desperately prayed for in the dark, but also something so magnificent that it goes infinitely beyond absolutely anything your human mind has ever dared to imagine. Archangel Michael says you urgently need to walk with significantly more divine intention. When you dress, when you step outside your front door, when you confidently enter a physical space, when you speak, and when you move, you must carry yourself exactly as someone God personally, intentionally breathed divine life into. Carry yourself as someone who has a massive, unshakable purpose permanently stamped on their very existence. You must begin to dress exactly like someone God deeply trusts, someone God explicitly chooses, and someone God is actively, publicly elevating. Because the absolute truth is, the specific way you dress profoundly affects the way you internally feel, the way you confidently move, the way you powerfully speak, and the exact way you fundamentally believe in yourself. When you dress with intentionality, you carry yourself with blinding clarity. When you dress with self-respect, You carry yourself with massive, undeniable divine authority. God is absolutely not asking you to be flawless or perfect. God is simply asking you to be profoundly, deeply aware. Aware of exactly who you are, aware of exactly where you are rapidly going, and deeply aware of the magnificent empire He is actively building within you. There were incredibly painful, heavy moments in your past when you were harshly, unfairly criticized for the way you dressed, or the way you looked, and those sharp, careless words deeply wounded your fragile spirit. Heaven is actively, miraculously healing those specific, deep-rooted insecurities right now. There were terrifying moments when you were judged completely unfairly by shallow, broken people, and those painful, heavy memories subconsciously shaped your daily choices, making you desperately want to shrink into the background just to avoid their cruel gaze. Heaven is completely, perfectly restoring you today. There were entirely exhausting moments when you desperately dressed simply to please the toxic expectations of others, and you tragically lost massive, beautiful pieces of your own authentic identity in the process. Heaven is actively, aggressively returning every single one of those stolen pieces directly back to your spirit right now. God is completely, lovingly rebuilding your core identity, radically reshaping your internal confidence, and massively lifting your exhausted spirit. Heaven saw the deep disappointment in your eyes when you settled for less, the quiet insecurity in your heart, and the subtle discomfort that you suppressed. God says He wants to heal that specific, wounded part of you, the part that settles when you unequivocally deserve infinitely more. The part that hides in the shadows when you were explicitly created to blind the darkness with your light. Before we continue uncovering this magnificent, life-altering divine preparation, I want to take a brief, warm moment to invite you into our spiritual family. If this profound message is actively resonating with your spirit today, if you feel the heavy, comforting presence of the angels surrounding you as you read these words, I warmly and lovingly invite you to subscribe to this channel right now. Join our beautiful, growing community of light workers and faithful souls, and let us continue to walk this magnificent, miraculous journey of divine elevation together. Your presence here is deeply cherished, and together, we are stepping into our highest, most anointed destinies. Now, listen incredibly closely to what Archangel Michael is whispering to your spirit, because the divine angels are actively repositioning major, life-altering elements in your physical reality right now. They are aggressively rearranging the spiritual chessboard. They are fiercely, meticulously clearing path after path. And while they do their massive, unseen part, God is gently, lovingly inviting you to do yours. Not by working yourself to the bone, not by stressing your mind, not by drowning in worry or suffocating in doubt, but by simply, profoundly honoring yourself. There is a very specific, incredibly important person actively coming into your physical life very soon, and their specific role will be absolutely, undeniably monumental for your future trajectory. This person, this divine, hand-picked connection, will physically see you long before they ever hear you speak a single word. They will instantly, intuitively feel something massive and undeniable in your sheer presence before they even know your name or your complex history. The specific way you visually present yourself, the exact energy you exude through your intentional appearance, will play a massive, defining role in exactly how this profound, God-ordained connection unfolds. Heaven desperately wants you to be fully, completely, and unapologetically ready for that exact, life-altering moment. Heaven wants your physical appearance to flawlessly, boldly reflect your ultimate, divine truth. Not your past insecurity, not your old fear, not your heavy stress, and entirely not your lingering doubt, but your blinding confidence, your absolute purity, and your unshakable divine purpose. God is explicitly saying that your life is actively entering a massive, entirely unstoppable season of incredible breakthroughs. Those miserable, toxic people who previously tried to maliciously understand or block your destiny will now be completely, agonizingly forced to sit back and watch it unfold in magnificent ways they never even dared to imagine. Those who foolishly doubted your potential will be forced to witness your spectacular, undeniable public rise. Those who desperately tried to drain your pure energy will watch in absolute horror as you regain it 10 times stronger, brighter, and more powerful than ever before. Archangel Michael is telling you that some of the specific outfits you currently wear actually dim your brilliant spiritual light, while others fiercely, beautifully reveal it. This is exactly why God is gently, lovingly correcting your path today. You may have actively noticed recently that you are suddenly, unexplainably outgrowing certain old looks, certain dark colors, or certain faded styles that you used to comfortably wear every single day. That sudden, internal shift is absolutely not an accident. That is pure, undeniable divine evolution. Your spirit is exponentially growing at the speed of light, and your outer, physical self is simply being divinely asked to grow right along with it. When you dress in a specific way that profoundly honors the divine light within you, heavy, rusted doors miraculously open completely effortlessly. People suddenly, unexplainably treat you completely differently, with deep, profound respect. Massive, life-changing opportunities actively seek you out and find you in the crowd. The absolute right, pure, and divinely aligned souls naturally gravitate directly toward your aura, and the toxic, wrong, manipulative souls are aggressively, permanently kept away by your blinding light. Heaven is explicitly telling you today that your physical appearance is an active, vital part of your heavy spiritual armor. It fiercely protects you. It speaks massive volumes for you before you ever open your mouth. It actively creates an impenetrable, vibrating energy field entirely around you. And when you intentionally dress in specific ways that deeply, profoundly honor your radiant inner light, your physical energy becomes infinitely clearer, completely purer, and overwhelmingly stronger than it has ever been in your entire life. God says to your spirit today, I desperately want the entire world to clearly, undeniably see the breathtaking, magnificent beauty I meticulously placed inside of you. I deeply, urgently desire for your physical presence to flawlessly, powerfully reflect your ultimate, divine purpose on this earth. I need you to understand that this is absolutely not about covering up in shame, nor is it about inappropriately revealing yourself for cheap, earthly attention. This is entirely not about desperately striving to look physically perfect by the shallow, broken, and toxic standards of modern society. This is profoundly, deeply about being intentionally aligned with heaven, and being intensely, radically aware of the magnificent, royal creature you are rapidly becoming. You are absolutely not the exact same, timid, exhausted person you were a year ago, a month ago, or even a single, fleeting week ago. Your beautiful, resilient soul is actively, violently changing and expanding. Your massive, undeniable destiny is aggressively unfolding right before your very eyes. Your unprecedented, generational blessings are rapidly coming closer and closer to your physical reality by the millisecond. And heaven desperately, urgently wants you to be fully, completely, and boldly ready to receive them without a single ounce of hesitation or lingering doubt. Archangel Michael steps even closer to your spirit right now and firmly says that dressing with divine intention is the ultimate act of dressing with absolute dignity. It is dressing with a profound, unshakable awareness of your own immense, immeasurable worth. And sometimes, in the exhausting, suffocating chaos of your daily survival, you tragically forget your own immense worth. Sometimes you incorrectly, unfairly put yourself completely lost on your own priority list to take care of everyone else. Sometimes you dress incredibly quickly and entirely thoughtlessly simply because you are bone tired, incredibly busy, severely stressed, or completely, deeply emotionally drained by the heavy demands of this world. But heaven is aggressively telling you today that the specific, intentional way you dress profoundly affects your internal mood, your unshakable confidence, your daily, critical decisions, and the powerful, vibrating energy you carry throughout your entire day. God desperately wants you to dress exactly like someone who is deeply loved, explicitly chosen, fiercely protected, and permanently destined for infinitely more. There have been countless, exhausting days when God watched you slowly put on something you didn't even really like, but you wore it anyway simply because you falsely, tragically felt you didn't deserve or have anything better. Heaven clearly saw the heavy, quiet disappointment in your tired eyes, the quiet, suffocating insecurity in your breaking heart, and the subtle, nagging discomfort that you forcefully suppressed. God says He is stepping into your reality right now to completely, permanently heal that specific, wounded part of you. The broken pot that tragically settles for crumbs when you undeniably deserve the entire royal feast. The terrified pot that hides in the dark shadows when you should be blinding the world with your radiant shine. The exhausted pot that passively accepts significantly less when you were specifically, flawlessly created for breathtakingly greater things. The way you physically dress is a direct, undeniable reflection of exactly how you internally feel about yourself. And heaven is actively, miraculously changing the way you see yourself so that your outer, physical expression perfectly, flawlessly matches your inner, spiritual truth. Archangel Michael is explicitly telling you that some of the specific times when you dressed too much or too little, you were actually, subconsciously responding to deep emotional wounds without even knowing it. Sometimes you tried to desperately overcompensate for your insecurities. Other times you desperately tried to completely disappear into the background. And both of those extreme reactions were glaring, painful signs of a heavy, toxic pain you absolutely did not deserve to carry. God is completely, permanently releasing those heavy, suffocating emotional burdens from your shoulders right now. He is actively, miraculously healing your fragile relationship with your own physical body, your own image, and your own reflection in the mirror. He is gently, masterfully teaching you to finally see yourself with His divine, flawless eyes, eyes entirely full of unconditional love, immense pride, and unshakable purpose. Heaven is explicitly saying you absolutely do not need to compare yourself to anyone else on this earth. You do entirely not need to dress like others. You do completely not need to blindly follow shallow, fleeting worldly trends. You only need to perfectly, beautifully align with your own, unique, God-given spirit. Your personal style is a massive, integral part of your unique identity. Your clothing is a loud, undeniable part of your spiritual message to the world. The specific way you present yourself is an active, vital part of your high spiritual calling. People instantly, intuitively sense your vibrating energy long before they ever hear your spoken words. And God desperately wants your physical presence to loudly, undeniably speak absolute peace, blinding confidence, pristine clarity, and overwhelming divine strength. God says you are entirely, permanently safe. Absolutely nothing will go wrong with you. You are fiercely, heavily protected by legions of angels. But He is actively, aggressively preparing you for a massive, unprecedented blessing that absolutely requires a brand new, elevated level of deep self-respect, radical self-love, and profound self-awareness. Dressing well is absolutely not foolish pride. It is profound, deep gratitude to the Creator. It is beautifully honoring the magnificent, capable body God gave you, the radiant, powerful spirit He placed inside you, and the massive, world-changing destiny He flawlessly planned for you. When you intentionally dress with deep, divine intention, heaven miraculously kicks open heavy, iron doors for you. When you confidently carry yourself with unshakable, blinding confidence, towering warrior angels actively walk right beside you. When you proudly present yourself with absolute, undeniable dignity, massive, life-changing divine connections easily, effortlessly find you in the crowd. Archangel Michael stands fiercely by your side right now, watching you with incredibly deep, protective care. He says, "Your magnificent aura is visibly changing. Your powerful presence is aggressively shifting. Your internal energy is rapidly rising to a frequency you have absolutely never experienced before. And now, your external, physical expression must absolutely, beautifully rise right along with it." He deeply wants you to dress in specific ways that fiercely protect your pure spirit from unnecessary, toxic earthly attention, but also in magnificent ways that profoundly honor your God-given beauty. He wants you to dress in empowering ways that make you feel incredibly powerful, not uncomfortably exposed, blindingly confident, not crippled by anxiety, intensely radiant, not tragically hidden. He wants you to boldly walk into every single room, every single meeting, and every single space with a massive, unshakable sense of true identity, deeply knowing exactly who you are, exactly what you unequivocally deserve, and exactly what the Almighty God has flawlessly, permanently planned for you. In the upcoming weeks, you will suddenly, unexplainably notice yourself being powerfully drawn to certain vibrant colors, certain rich fabrics, and certain bold forms of physical expression that feel infinitely more you than ever before. This is absolutely not random. This is pure, undeniable divine guidance. You will suddenly feel incredibly uncomfortable wearing certain old, faded, or dull things you used to comfortably wear every single day. This is direct, aggressive divine redirection. You will feel a sudden, intense desire to completely upgrade your physical wardrobe, your overall appearance, and your daily self-presentation. This is the ultimate, magnificent divine preparation. Heaven is aggressively telling you that this is officially your ultimate season of blinding glow, your sacred season of profound, physical refinement, and your magnificent season of undeniable divine transformation. When you finally look in the mirror tomorrow morning, Heaven desperately wants you to look deeply into your own eyes and see someone who is explicitly chosen, massively favored, fiercely protected, overwhelmingly blessed, and someone who is rapidly, beautifully becoming the absolute best, most anointed version of themselves. God is meticulously preparing you for entirely new, unprecedented opportunities, breathtaking new relationships, and magnificent new paths. And your physical appearance is a non-negotiable, massive part of that ultimate preparation. You are actively stepping into a highly anointed chapter where your physical presence will matter infinitely more than it ever has before. People will deeply notice you. People will be magnetically drawn to you. People will intensely feel something in you that they cannot logically explain, simply because heaven is placing a blinding, heavy light over you. A magnificent light that your clothing and presentation must actively honor, entirely not dim. Archangel Michael says, "This is about you. Pay close, undivided attention." He deeply wants you to listen because he has been desperately trying to guide you for months. He has been continuously sending you small, undeniable signs. He has been constantly whispering incredibly gentle corrections, absolutely not to shame you, but to completely, beautifully elevate you. Not to maliciously criticize you, but to massively, abundantly bless you. You are actively, aggressively being prepared for something incredibly big, something undeniably sacred, and something permanently life-changing. And heaven demands that absolutely every single part of you, inside and out, is fully, unequivocally ready for it. God says, once again, that absolutely nothing will go wrong with you. You are entirely safe. You are deeply, unconditionally loved. You are fiercely, jealously protected. But he desperately needs you to completely trust him, to fervently pray to him, and to closely, obediently listen to the subtle, beautiful guidance he is constantly sending your way. This powerful, prophetic message is an ultimate act of overwhelming divine love, not a harsh, terrifying warning. It is a profound act of divine preparation, not crippling fear. It is a magnificent act of spiritual alignment, not cruel, earthly judgment. Heaven is flawlessly teaching you to boldly step into your ultimate next level with blinding, unshakable confidence. If you completely believe this divine prophecy, if you are fully, completely ready to permanently release your old, exhausted identity, drastically elevate your physical and spiritual presence, and bravely step into your magnificent, unprecedented season of ultimate divine elevation, open your beautiful, radiant heart right now and type Amen to instantly, permanently claim this massive, life-altering miracle for your destiny today.